What's up, everyone? Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming RuneScape leagues that was recently announced. Talk about it a bit, explain what I think it's going to be. There hasn't been too much information released on it yet, so it's still kind of up in the air exactly what it's going to be. And then I'm going to talk about why I'm looking forward to it and why I'm extremely excited, why this would be one of my favorite updates of all time, why I've asked for it before and now it's finally happening. It definitely isn't going to be something for everyone. I'm sure some of the reasons I'm going to give why I like it, some people will find those reasons to be reasons to not like it. So it's definitely not for everyone, but for me, I'm extremely excited for it. So first, before we're getting into my reasons, let's talk about what exactly it is. So Mod Kieran originally kind of talked about the idea a little bit months back.
Why don't we just, I like the idea of spinning up a second old school instance essentially alongside it, but for a fixed period of time. So we spin up another old school for 2 months. We can modify that, so we could do some interesting things with it, like for instance, locking it down to like a certain area, like sort of like what Swampletics does. With his Mauritania. Like, we could do something like that. I mean, we could even just say it's like zero only, wherever. We can make it Falador only, or that free-to-play area. Something like that, do it for a fixed period of time and see how far you can get in that time with its own high scores and everything like that.
So from the information that I've seen, what I think it's going to be is going to be kind of like a seasonal alternate server of old school RuneScape, with a few changes and twists to make the gameplay different and unique, to give people a reason to try it rather than the just main normal old school RuneScape. It's going to be open for a set amount of time. They talked about it being very competitive, see who can be the first person to get to X place or X item or whatever. And I think some people are interpreting that as that's the sole purpose of the server. Just a race to see who can get to whatever Jagex decide the final goal is, and then once someone reaches that, then the server is done and it's closed to the next one. I don't think that is what it is. It's going to have a set amount of time that it's going to be open for, so maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you can do whatever you want in the game for those months that it's open. You don't have to race towards whatever Jagex set as the ultimate goal for that season. You can play it just like a brand new old school RuneScape server. There will be a task system put in, and you'll get points for completing certain tasks. I don't know if you're only going to get points if you're the first person or if you just hit that thing ever. And then what you will do with those points is you're going to be able to spend them on cosmetic items for the main old school RuneScape game. Those cosmetics will be voted on, so it's possible none of them will pass, and then there's nothing coming from this seasonal server that's going to make its way into the original game, so there's going to be no impact at all. But if they do pass, then you would want to get as many points as possible to get items in the main old school server, which will be tradable and you can sell them for money. That's one reason to play the RuneScape leagues. Me personally, I don't really care about selling cosmetics in the main game for money. It's purely for the experience for me. I think it's a lot more fun to play. I'll get more into the reasons why I'm going to play later on, but for me personally, the rewards don't really matter. So think of an alternate brand new server of old school RuneScape with a new rule set. Possibly it's locked to only free-to-play areas. Maybe it's possibly locked to only free-to-play items. I mean, that would be kind of an odd rule set, but it's the base old school game with a new twist of rules on it and a task system that will potentially give you rewards in the main old school game. That is essentially what it sounds like to me. So now that we know what RuneScape Leagues is, let's get into the reasons why I am excited for it and possibly why you might be excited for it. So the first reason why I am excited for it is because in a brand new economy, a brand new server like this, skill and knowledge matters a lot more than in the current game. The longer a game's open, the more it comes down to consistency and when you started the game, rather than actually how skilled you are or how much game knowledge you have. So the current old school server has been open for almost 7 years at this point. That's crazy to think about. And really, just about the biggest factor in where you are in the game is when you started. If you started on the very first day the old school originally came out, you could have been playing for 1 hour every day since then and have a very, very good account that's max total, very far along, even if you are pretty bad at the game. And yet, let's say someone just started 6 months ago. They are amazing at the game, very skilled. They've accrued a bunch of knowledge in their 6 months, and they are extremely good at the game, and they're playing 3 hours a day. Their account is going to be much worse than the person that started at the beginning. Not only is it going to be a lot worse, it's going to take them multiple years to catch up to the person that started at the beginning. And some people might look at this as a good thing, and in a way I like it at times. What you do in the game stays forever. You're not going to lose it, and you don't have to play a ton to get far in the game, as long as you're consistent over a very long period of time. I definitely feel this has a place, so it's good that we have a main game that has this sort of playability, but I would also like another option where it's more about your skill and knowledge, and that's where a new server, a new seasonal server fits in perfectly. It's more about how much game knowledge and how skilled you are at the game, more so than when you started. When competing with other players in the high scores, or seeing who can get to a certain point in the game or finish a certain PVM challenge first, the closest thing we can get to this in the current game is when Jagex releases a new piece of content, but at the end of the day that is very small compared to the entire game. When they released Prif, the race to see who could finish the first Corrupt Gauntlet, to see who could get the first Blade of Seldor, all that sort of stuff is very fun, but is very, very short-lived compared to opening up the entire server brand new. Rather than 2 pets and a few items, you have the entire game. Who's going to be max total first again? Who's going to get the first 99 in magic? Who's going to be the first person to get the Inferno Cape? There's a whole bunch of races and competitive play with other players. And yes, I know a lot of you guys are going to say that the amount that you play per day matters a lot, and it does matter a lot, but that's something that's in both the main game and this. There are some ways to get rid of that, and maybe Jagex will do something about that, we'll see. But even if they don't, the thing is, at the end of 2 months, the gap between someone who's playing 1 hour a day versus someone who's playing 10 hours a day, the gap between those 2 people is going to be a whole lot smaller than if you have 2 people. They both start at the beginning of old school RuneScape. One plays 1 hour a day for the 7 years it's been out. The other person plays 10 hours every day since it's been out. The gap between those guys is going to be way larger than it would be in a seasonal game. So yes, time per day does matter, but it actually matters less than a game like the main game where it just never ends. Not to mention in the main game as well, if you started late, then the time per day matters even less. If someone started on the very first day of old school and they play 5 hours a day, and you start 3 years after old school has already come out, you're going to have to play a whole lot more than them to even match them. So once again, the main game, when you started, matters a lot. And the fact that it's seasonal is also a very good point, because you can quit the game for 4 years, come back, and still start at the beginning of a season and be very competitive with other people, rather than while you're gone for 4 years in the main game, they've all flew by you, got all the new stuff, and you're like way back when you come back. So it's nice to have a seasonal thing where your game knowledge and skill can last over time, and it doesn't matter if you're not consistently playing. Another thing I like about new seasons or new servers like this, when they're brand new, is the uniqueness and specialty of getting certain things. Currently in the main game, since it never ends and there's never a reset, the amount of people with certain things, certain levels, just continues to increase and increase, and the specialty or uniqueness of them just continually goes down over time. So really the only way to set yourself apart from other players at the top end is if Jagex continues to move the goalpost further and further. So for PVM, if you're someone going for all pets, the only way to really set apart the best pet hunters from the rest is to just continue adding more pets, and really the best pet hunters are those at the top that have all pets or near all pets as they continue to add more. PVM gear, they can continue to add new PVM gear, so as other gears become more and more common, you can kind of set yourself apart by getting the new PVM gear that's worth more and harder to get. But there's only so much they can do of that sort of stuff, so still in the end, the high-end stuff just usually gets more and more devalued. Whereas with fresh starts, new economies, all that sort of stuff, everything is empty and open for the taking. There isn't too many people with something at the very beginning.
1, 2, 3, rune boots, yeah. 400k, yes. Cash money, thank you. Holy rune boots, rune boots.
Please, mother of baby Jesus. Please. What the hell? What the hell? Oh my god!
So if any of you guys have experienced a new boss release and getting a new item like on the first day that it comes out, it's awesome. You're like one of the very few people that have that drop. You can sell it for bank. Well, when a new economy is made, a new server starts, everything is like that. Every single drop, every single rare drop you get, every single skill you get is unique and much rarer than the current game. So it gives the entire game that feeling.
Come on. I'm 31. I'm 31. Oh, come on. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I just said, oh my god. I'm gonna
Oh my god!
Kidding! I'm not even kidding!
So kind of along that same thing, over time, resources and stuff just becomes more. There's a stockpile building up because there's more coming into the game than is leaving the game. And what that does over time, let's take nature runes as an example. We just have so many nature runes in the game right now that crafting nature runes just really isn't that profitable because there's way more supply than there is demand for them. But that completely flips in a new economy, and when a new server starts, everyone needs resources. Everyone needs those nature runes for the magic training. Everyone needs stuff to train their stuff up, but there's no supply at all. So that opens up tons and tons of different money makers and basically makes everything in the game valuable to do. That guy that wants to get the first Inferno Cape in the game and he wants a high magic level, he needs runes to do that, and he's not going to go train his rune crafting up to make his own runes to go do the Inferno first. He needs to do it fast, and it's more efficient for him to buy the runes off of someone specializing in runecraft. And that person specializing in runecrafting is going to make a whole lot of money compared to right now in the main game where we already have a stockpile of everything. We don't need runecrafters anymore. So it's very different.
Gentle Falls was the first player to achieve 99 Herbler on March 14th, 2013. She had a huge bank from being the first player to fletch magic short bows, selling them for 60k each. This gave her plenty of money to buy bulk herbs and secondary ingredients to get 99 Herbler. Libram and Mithra were two players to drop out of the raids to 99 Herbler at the halfway point to start focusing on other skills. If they were to continue Herbler, I speculate that Gentle Falls would still have won the race, but not by 6.5 million experience. Your boy Mac Aged finished 4th to 99 Herbler, making 200 mil in the process. God only knows how much Gentle Falls made.
When you're doing those Slayer tasks and you get a rune med drop, that's going to feel awesome because there's not a whole bunch of GP in the game already. So that 10k alk actually goes somewhere. That's actually really useful compared to now in the game. Just the other day, I was killing ogre shamans. And that they were dropping rune stuff, and I wasn't even bothering to pick it up. I didn't want to drop my manta race to make room for the rune stuff because it's just so worthless in the game right now. So not only will these servers be fresh and new, which is what I want mostly, but they're also going to have twists and unique things about each season, which just adds to the fun. People won't be able to plan beforehand what the best route is, what the most efficient thing is. So everyone's going to be kind of guessing when it very first starts because of all the new things such as relics, whatever the rule set is, the task rewards, all that sort of stuff is going to make it even more different than just playing the regular old school server fresh. Jagex have mentioned ideas such as locking it down to certain areas like Mauritania, like Swampletics. You could do no GE, you could do like no God Wars dungeon, no barrows, but still have like raids, so you have to complete raids without the initial barrows and God Wars dungeon armor. There's a whole bunch of ideas that could be really interesting, so I look forward to see what ideas people come up with. So I've heard people kind of have complaints or concerns about clanman mode. How are they going to combat that? But I think that really isn't going to be that big of an issue. If Jagex makes it so there's one like ultimate end goal for every season, then that one ultimate end goal could have a lot of people doing clanman mode to try and get it first, maybe. But at the end of the day, there is not going to be too many. We still don't know if there's even going to be rewards in the main game from playing this. And if there is, it's going to be cosmetics. So there's not a huge reason to have a whole group of people spend their time boosting one person up to get this cosmetic reward that might be worth 1 mil. Heck, let's say it's going to be worth 100 mil. Even in that case, what clan of people is going to put in hundreds of hours to boost one person up to get this 100 mil item? I really don't think there's going to be enough reason for clanman mode to really happen. And even if it does, like I've mentioned before, the whole game is open. So They might take that one specific goal that Jagex might set, but there's tons of other things and other reasons to play the entire game rather than just going for that one end goal. It's not like there's going to be clan mode to get every single achievement in the game. There's just not enough clans to do that sort of thing. So personally, I'm not worried about clan mode at all. Another concern is swapping and real world trading. That is going to give people an advantage, of course, if they real world trade or they swap over. But there really isn't too much you can do about that other than make it Iron Man. And I'm sure there will be some seasons that are Iron Man. I don't think that is a big enough reason to just completely scrap non-Iron Man seasons. I'm sure the rates are going to be insanely high. Like I remember when Old School first came out, it was like up to I think $10 for 1 mil for a while, at least for like a month or something like that. So I'm sure the swap rates Old School to the new league will be very high, and the real world trade rates will be very high. So there's not going to be too many people doing that, assuming it's popular. If it's not popular, then maybe there won't even be a market for that sort of thing. Jagex have said that they're not going to be pulling RuneScape leagues because it's not part of Old School. It's a completely separate server that's just using Old School as a base to start from. So it's not going to be pulled. What will be pulled are the cosmetic rewards that you might be able to get inside Old School RuneScape. But other than those cosmetic rewards, the league itself will not be pulled. So personally, I'm very happy about that since this is like the update that I want the most. It doesn't impact Old School in any way, so it's not like they are changing Old School without a vote. It's completely separate, and I personally can't wait, so I hope it comes soon. Thinking about it, it doesn't seem like it should take that much work. So I hope that it's going to be launched here within the next month or two. That would be sweet rather than waiting a year for it or whatever. So those are my thoughts on RuneScape Leagues. Comment down below what you're excited for about RuneScape Leagues or what you're not excited for, why you don't want it, why you do want it. If you are excited, what are you going to do? What's your plan? What are you going to go for? Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.